So how'd you start dirt carts?
Started dirt carts. My old man used to race them, so pretty much used to go there when I was a kid. Used to watch him, and of course, when I was old enough, I just couldn't wait to get out there. And back then it was 8, so pretty much when I was 8 years old, I was out on track and running around.
So he just come home one day and said, "You're in"?
Oh no, obviously leading up to me turning 8, he found an old cart, and my dad, he used to like sort of modifying things and building things himself. So he used to build his own motors back then, and with his carts, he used to like modifying them, sort of cutting bars out of them, and putting different bars in them. So he found an old speed car, I think it was, speed chassis or speed cart, and basically he just modified to suit me being so small and virtually an adult-sized cart. So I had to, bring the pedals back and move the seat forward. And I think from memory, because my sister would race as well, so I think we used to go to Morgan a couple of times before I was 8, and you could hire the track out. So used to do that a little bit, and then straight into it. So when I was 8 years old, first race out of Adelaide Dirt Carts, the old track, and I think it was the first year they created the rookie class too. So didn't have to go on the juniors straight away, which is good because obviously the big kids push you around a bit. But,
so then obviously pretty successful through the dirt carts for them to see something in you to then go spend the money on a lightning sprint.
To be honest, I didn't really race dirt carts that much. I think my dad was just busy, obviously working, and pretty much, he built a couple of houses throughout my younger years, and so what it's like. I know what it's like now doing it myself. Trying to establish a house with the landscaping and getting it to where you want them and whatnot. So sort of tied up a lot of our weekends, but I think. I probably raced it maybe 8 to 10 times a season, so it wasn't much, but it was some good times. And I guess as a family, we used to go out to the Speedway and watch the sprint cars there at Speedway City, and it was something I always dreamt about, and I guess probably my dad dreamt about it too, but probably didn't have the opportunity and the money to do it. So carts is where he sort of stuck to, but for me, I just sort of ever dreamt about it, really. Like I used to daydream at school, used to draw pictures all the time of sprint cars, and back then it was Gary Rush, Max Dumsley, they were my heroes, and even on my carts, I used to pull the Valvoline stickers off the oil bottles and stick them on my carts, so I'd look like. Had the Valvoline sponsorship and whatnot, so it was just one of those things. I wanted to head that way, and I guess as I got older, I think I was around 15, and I sort of left school early and started working when I was just before I was 16. So once I started earning a bit of my own money, and I guess my parents knew I wanted to head that direction, so. We looked at our options, and I think Formula 500 was one of them. And obviously that local class, the V6 Sprints. So we're sort of humming and hawing which way to go. I think we just opted for the V6 Sprints, thinking it was a bit cheaper way to do it. Sort of start off once again buying a pretty old car, old speed car roller, and didn't know anything about Speedway at all, really. Just had to do a lot of research, and once again my dad built a lot of the parts, pretty much made everything he could. It took a lot of time. I think it took us a good 2 years to build the car, over time, which was pretty frustrating for me. All I wanted to do was race, so I actually had a bit of time out of racing because we sold the carts, and finally got on track with our first V6 Sprint, and it just took off from there, really. Like, pretty early on, I think it was only half a season, I was, starting to win races. Back then, there was some good car counts as well, and some good drivers. And then, from there, I think it just, like I said, it just took off for me, really. And opportunity started to open up.
So how old were you when you got into the sprint cars then?
I was 21 when I started in the sprint car. So I think I was 17 when I started Speedway. So, yeah, there was a bit of a gap from the karts to the Speedway scene. But, yeah, I finally got there when I was 21 years old. And to be honest, I didn't think it would ever happen because sort of I knew, like, my parents alone couldn't afford to do, or to race a sprint car or to fund a sprint car team. So it all snowballed from the V6 sprint days and, getting results in that. Some people start to take notice and then you get sponsors, and I had some really good people behind me that had some contacts in the sprint car game and also some contacts in the business game could help out with sponsorship. So, but there was even a year between the V6 and the sprint car where I raced the speed car. So for Bert Fenton, he approached me and it was good fun.
It's pretty funny to think that your career could have gone totally different direction with midgets from that point there. The midget door can be so big, like America and all that sort of stuff.
I kind of sort of, when I did get offered the ride, the first night I was out at Speedway City and first didn't get a practice night or nothing in it, so I just jumped straight in it and going from a wing car to a non-wing car, which had, I think, nearly twice the power. It was a pretty awesome feeling for me, and it took me pretty much to the feature to get a handle of it and to get used to the feeling of it leaning over so hard and whatever else it was doing. But we actually got to the lead in the feature, so we were actually leading the race, and I think 5 to go, it sheared the keyway off the power steering pump. Ran out of power steering, and my little arms back then couldn't quite hang on. I actually can't remember if I finished second or where I finished, but it would have been nice to have won that on debut. And then so I think that was the season before I ran it full time, and then I got the ride. So it was it was a interesting year. We I think we pretty much won most things local, and then unfortunately every time a big show come around, there'd be a drum with the car or a bit of a gremlin. So I think the one good night we had in that car on a national scene was up at Mildura for the Super Series they used to run back in the day, the Triple S or the Super Series, whatever it's called. And that was when I reckon midgets was at its strongest. You had Adam Clark, Pickens in the
polarized car.
No, it was the those yellow Brecker cars. There was a bit of a team of them, and Graham Stewart. A lot of good drivers and teams back then, and we actually ran fourth up there against all those guys, and that was probably the best that we could sort of do when it comes to the big races. But for a little car, little team like Bert Fenton, he did it all on his own back then, and he was a pensioner, just loved his racing and did whatever he could to go racing. And I guess for a little team like that to do, get a result like that was pretty good.
So that was like TRDs and stuff like that starting to come in by that time? Is that still?
I reckon that was back when the Ed Pinks were real big, the Ford motors. And then we just had a Nissan FJ20 motor in ours, but the thing went good. Just obviously lacked a bit of torque and was a bit heavy, but if the track conditions are right, you could still give them a bit of a hurry up.
So then your first sprint car was essentially a family car?
No, so after that, I sort of realised, sprint car racing is where it's at. And it was always where I wanted to be anyway, and it's what I always loved. And like I said, going out to Speedway City or Speedway Park back then, and, watching World Series and all the big names come to town, Gary Rush, Max Stumsey, Gary Brazier, all the people you idolised, and it's where I wanted to be racing. And so had some people that were in the game, and good family friend Gary Carlier, and he used to help out with World Series a bit, so he knew a few of the teams and knew Tony Bartlett quite well. So he sort of put the feelers out and asked the question. And Tony was looking for a driver at the time. I think he'd been out of the seat himself for a few years and had a few different drivers in, but seemed to be taking on rookies at the time. And you could see there was a bit of a vacancy, so we approached him as well as a few other people did. And had a few interviews with him and pretty much ended up getting the deal. So my first year in a sprint car was with Tony Bartlett. I think that was 2007, I reckon. So 16 years ago, I reckon.
So did you have to go to the garage for a few interviews? And
yeah, went out for tea a few times and down to his workshop there at Hawthorn and, checked it all out and obviously just trying to sell myself. And I guess, he sort of probably seen a bit of what I was doing anyway and obviously liked what I was doing because he took me on. And to be honest, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be racing sprint cars today because never would have been able to do it on my own. And he gave me that opportunity. Only lasted for a year. But that year basically got me on the scene. And from there, at the end of the year, basically we parted ways. He wanted to do something else. And sort of knowing I couldn't do it on my own, I thought, well, that's it, I'm done. So I pretty much decided I'm just going to go all out here. I'm going to go to America and just go over there, try and crew for a team, try and get this out of my system and move on. And during the year with Tony Bartlett, there was he's no longer alive, unfortunately, but Tyson, and a lot of people knew him as Spud.
yeah.
He was a good friend of Tony. He used to hang around with us a bit, so I got to know him there. And he used to go to America every year and crew for Travis Rylett. So I was ringing him up, and I finally got hold of him. He was already over there. I said, I want to come over. Is there any room for me there? And he said, yeah, come over. So booked my airfares, went over there and started crewing. I thought I'd just try and learn a bit, and like I said, get it out of my system. And while I was over there, one of my sponsors that I'd got on board to help me while I was with Tony rang me up and heard what happened. And his name was John Walker. And basically told him what happened and said, it's pretty much me done. And he said, why don't we start our own team up? I said, well, can't exactly afford that. I'm only an apprentice, and haven't got much money. He goes, well, I'll go halves and we'll find sponsors. And sure enough, while I was in America, this all formed, and next minute I was potentially building a team up, and so he said, yeah, let's do it. So while I'm there, I'm organising parts, buying parts so I could ship back, looking for a motor, and then just, really trying to learn what I need to do to build cars and set them up, because when I was drove for TB, pretty much I just drove the car. He took care of all of that. So
you were just rocking up with your pit bag on the night.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was just young and naive. I was keen to learn, but my job was to drive.
Yeah.
And Tony liked to be involved with that sort of thing. So I really had not much of an idea. And
he's so switched on too. It's almost probably better off staying out of his way and letting him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Tony likes it that way, and it was like I was new at it anyway, so I had no idea of. And looking back at it now, there's even what I was feeling in the car back then. Some of those things, if I drove for him now, I could tell him what it was doing, but back then I had no idea. And even a couple of his motors he had were older motors. I had nothing to compare against, and we ended up blowing up one of the motors, and he put one of those ex-Steve Kinser motors in it that he had sitting in the shed. And after I ran it that night, we actually won. So, and it turns out I'm thinking, well, if I knew how good this motor was, or I would have said something earlier.
It's sounding very Days of Thunder like.
Yeah. Well, we sort of started off really strong. My first night in the car, it's one of those things that is, I think it's almost how people dream about how their career starts. And to me, even for me, I was I couldn't believe how how my first night started in the car. Like I did 2 practice nights on your own. The first night was a big, pretty much all the shows back then at Speedway City, they're big shows, and the first one was the Masters. And back then, all the big names came, and I mean big names, you had, Max was still racing, and that's when he was still strong. Gary Brazier, Jason Johnson.
Who was the first person you were against in a heat, and you were
this is the thing,
you were holy shit, that's such and such next to me. Who do you know? Do you remember who it was?
Well, yeah, I do. I remember this night so clearly. It's just, it could have went so much better. It was heading down that way too, but unfortunately, it didn't quite go to plan. But you start off a time trial, and we timed. I don't exactly know where I timed, but it was good enough to put me, as the quickest to the rear. I think I was off the 4th row, 3rd or 4th row. So I'm like, that's pretty good. And then you look at who was behind me, and I had, it was a stacked heat. Jason Johnson, Max, Gary Brazier, I reckon even Dave Murcott. And I'm like, holy shit. Man, these guys are behind me. I'm going to get smoked here. I'm going to be coming last before you know it. So I was saying to myself, I just got to get a good start here and just see what I can do. And sure enough, take off, get to the first corner, hold my own, do a few laps. Oh, no one's passing me yet. I'm obviously going all right. Then all of a sudden, I've picked the car off. I'm like, that's all right, pass the car, Then I picked another car off. I'm like, shit, pretty good. Picked another car off. I think I'm up to, say, second by now. I'm like, far out, I'm in second. And the leader was the length of straight ahead. And I'm like, yeah, this is good, run second here. Next minute, I've run the guy in the lead down. I can't remember who it was. I got a feeling it might have been Grant Anderson, but I could be wrong. And next minute, I've caught him up and I've passed him. So here I am, my first ever race meeting in a sprint car, first ever race, and I've won it from 6. And I was thinking, I'm like,
I could just end here.
I'm thinking, this is too easy. I've watched these guys all my life. Yeah. These are the best of the best. I'm like, shit, this is all right. So then, we've come in, and then I could even hear the crowd because they all knew I was a rookie, and the commentators and the crowd was going off. They interviewed me, And come back in the pits there. Obviously, the whole team's happy. I'm happy. Give me a shitload of confidence. So go out for the second 80 off the back again, and I was heading the same direction again. I think I was up to second, and I was getting too greedy. I was trying to go for the win again, and being inexperienced, I tried to make the move and ended up tapping him and spun me. I kept it going, but fell back a few spots, but it still locked me in the A main. But obviously, if I could have finished even second, I probably would have put me in the front row. Knowing now what I know now, I would have been smarter and just hanged in second. But young and dumb, you just want to win. But
where'd you finish in the feature that night?
Well, this is the thing. So I've gone from winning the first heat from 6, and then going through the second heat, plenty of speed again, looking like winning it, and made a mistake. Started out 10 in the feature. Oh, that's all right, still top 10 in the feature. Well, I didn't even get over the start-finish line without flipping it. There was
Off the start?
Yeah, off the start. So, my night went from up here to down there pretty quick. And it was just a pile-up at the start of the race, and me braking, and then I got cleaned up, and I didn't even make it over the start line. So, that's how my first night started in the sprint car, and then from there on, it was a bit of a challenging year. Trying to do the speed week, with all the good cars there, and just couldn't qualify. You know what it's like when you can't qualify and you're just struggling, and it was knocking me down, giving me no confidence in the car, and it was getting to the point where I was just like, man, what's going on here? Like, in the first night I was doing this, now I can't even make a show. So, and then pretty much getting towards the end of the season, we heard a motor, and so he bolted his Steve Kinser motor in, and and then we won. Won the last night of the season out at Speedway City. And, it just goes to show, like, you know, the equipment is so important, and not knowing, but obviously the motors, you know, just want enough, and just was making it happen.
It's gone that way, hasn't it? Like the old adage of like the guy in the open trailer can rock up and win. That's sort of going away in the sport now. It's not. You don't really get too many of those underdogs like pulling a win out. It's still like it's definitely possible, but those nights are sort of starting to get few and far between in the sport now. Like there's just such disparity between the top guys and the guys who are just sort of coming along for the night.
Yeah, and the top end of the field's just so strong right now, and it's the little things now. And I think one of the big things is obviously there's a lot of good drivers and there's a lot of good young ones right now, and they're young, they're young and fit and hungry, and probably they've got nothing else on their mind to worry about apart from racing. They haven't got families, they haven't got kids, mortgages and businesses and whatnot, so they can just focus on what they're doing. And I sort of remember being like that, but I didn't have the opportunities of having a big team to drive for, and always had to sort of, bear in mind, if I wreck too hard, I won't be racing next week. So, but these days, I think having a good crew chief is another big thing too. Like someone that's, knows what they're doing and has got the experience as well. As having experienced driving is one thing, but obviously experienced crew chief's the next. And not only are they a crew chief, they can be a coach. Yeah. They can guide you on the track and tell you what you're doing wrong, and then they can see what the car's doing from the outside, and I can, relate to what it's doing on the inside, and you just bounce off each other. It's not as if the crew chief, just makes the decisions for you. That's sort of not what it's all about. You got to work together, and I guess a good driver with the knowledge and the feedback's just as important. But
even just having like a solid like crew of guys behind them as well. Like you see some crews and you're like, man, like you need 10 guys, and then you see some crews with like 3 guys.
Yeah,
and it's like
I think two really good guys is the magic number. Like if they work well together and they know what they're doing. 3's all right. Any more than that starts getting a bit crowded, but it's all good when you need that. If you've just wrecked or hands on deck, but most times it's a pretty cruisy. If things are running smoothly, we don't change a great deal in the car on the night, and sometimes you sort of stand in the back waiting for the next race. But it's definitely changed a lot from when I started, and the competition's definitely a lot harder now too, I reckon.
Yeah, it seems like does it seem like they're younger now in sprint cars? Like, I remember, like sort of you were saying, like 21 in a sprint car. Like that would have been super young at that point, and now it's like there's lads who have raced for 5 years at that point already.
It seemed to be like you sort of come good in your late 30s. Yeah. Like you looked at the history and say, I guess Brazy was a young one. He was pretty dominant pretty early, but it seemed to be like it's a long-term apprentice in a sprint car. You never stop learning, and it's so much experience that you need to have because there's so many variables in the sport. But it seemed to be late 30s was your magic number. But and I'm there now. But now these young ones, like you're talking, anywhere from like 18 to 25, and that seems to be the magic number now. And they've got, if you've got the opportunity and you've got the team behind you and they've got the talent, that's the hard bit.
Yeah, it seems like the talent has, like, risen so much as well. Like, it's just, they're young, they've got the opportunity, and they're all super fit now too. Like,
that's it.
Sort of gone are the days of, like, the big blokes in sprint cars and stuff like that. There's there's no young ones that are like big boys.
No.
Like they're all like super tiny jockeys and they all go to the gym 7 days a week kind of thing. That's it. Yeah, it's all sort of changed around now. Like
I guess everyone just pushes everyone to the limit, and everyone's got to try and get better. So that's what happens.
Yeah, it's going to the next level of things.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
So then next level, obviously, Whyalla Earth Racing. No, what is it? Whyalla Earthworks Racing.
Yeah. Well, that was there was still a few a few different rides between there. But obviously then I ran my own team for nearly 8 years.
You're probably the only guy I've ever seen in any form of, probably definitely a sprint car where a fan has built an esky based around your car.
I had some really good fans, Speedway City was good for me and it was good for the sport here in South Australia. Without it now, it's has affected the sport here in SA. And even with me, it's taken a bit of the shine off it for me too. Now you've got to travel. Like the closest is Murray Bridge, which it's a great place and a great track. And it took me a long time to get success there. I seem to always have the monkey in my back there, but the last few years I sort of can't seem to do wrong there. But Speedway City was good. Some awesome fans, die-hard fans out there, and I used to sell a lot of merch out there back in the green 29 car days, and it was a pretty popular car, that one. I think the green with the kids was a big hit.
I had the 29 hat with the pinstripes on it. Like, I thrashed it. It got to the point where the wife was like, "That's going in the bin." I was like, "No." I think you stopped making them. You went to start. I think flat peaks had come in by that stage. No one was doing flexi fits anymore.
I still see from time to time when I'm driving around the odd green 29 hoodie. And I think, man, that hoodie's done all right. That's got to be 10 years old.
10 years plus,
So that's what I mean. It was awesome. And so, I ran my own car for 8 years, obviously with the help of a few partners like John Walker. He was a half car in that deal for a number of years. And then he moved on. And then same thing. Every time one sponsor pulled out, I'm like, this is the end. And I relied so heavily on sponsorship to run my team, and you think, all right, that's the end of me, and next minute another sponsor would rock up. And I used to knock on a lot of doors when I was younger, like knocking on businesses' doors with proposals, trying to get sponsors, and never got one. All the sponsors I ever got were all at the track. They'd come to me. Obviously, they were race fans, and they were a fan of me, and they could see I was a battler with my little truck, and they'd just come up and say, "Hey, I want to help you out." And sure enough, one would leave and another one would arrive, and it would keep me going. And
that probably speaks more volumes about yourself. Like, that probably speaks just as much about like you as your racing does, though, for people to come to you and sponsor.
I think so. Fans all the time used to say, "I just love the way you race," and it's good to hear. It's good to see people acknowledge it, and that I'm putting on a show for the fans too. It's good, and makes me feel good, and sort of, I guess that's what we're there to do, to put a show on and bring the crowds in. So and then getting back to when I ran my own team, another good sponsor and a friend is Rabbit from Repeaty Earthworks. He came on board, and he was a big help. He was there pretty much to the end as well on my team. He used to crew for me as well, and kept me going. And and then National Karate was towards the end there. He come on board, Steve Miranda, and helped me out a heap as well. But unfortunately, it come to a point where just the funding wasn't strong enough to keep running my own team. And I was starting to get opportunities to drive other people's cars, so went down that path and drove for Matt Muir over in WA. Did World Series for 1 year.
Did you meet him at a car wash? I heard that you were washing your car, and you both washing cars at a car wash one night, and that's how you met.
No, that was Steve. That was Steve Miranda, National Karate.
Right,
yeah. That was a funny story.
Yeah,
washing my car, and he's come up. I was actually hosing a heap of dirt down the drain, and he's come up saying, "Oh, you own this car?" I'm like, "Yeah," thinking he must own the car wash, and he's gonna, give me shit for washing dirt down the drain. And something like, "Okay, yeah, I own the car." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, wouldn't mind helping you out." I said, "Okay." Didn't know who he was. So, you just do what you do and say, "Yeah, no worries," and exchange numbers. And sure enough, it led to what it was. And National Karate come on board and obviously helped me out, and got him involved in the sport. And he ended up helping quite a few other cars out too.
Countless cars in the state.
Yeah,
It's almost like the NOS Energy of South Australia.
Yeah,
there's not too many cars you don't see it on in like one way form.
He'd be at every speedway event, even if towards the end, even if it wasn't sprint cars, he'd be there and just had to be at a speedway, I think.
Yeah, that's like heaps of other classes still put on like great racing, but it's definitely the sprint cars that like bring the crowds in. Like it's definitely the draw card. Like you have to run them like on your other nights, and it's just some of the way the nights run is just it's bizarre to me. Like you've got to bring the sprint cars in, or some of the other states it's like the sprint car feature runs and then the wingless feature runs after it.
Yeah,
and it's like it's not helping those guys because the crowd's 3/4 gone, and so it's like no one's watching them, but they still put on like great racing, or there's like the guys coming through and stuff like that. Like they're sort of not getting their moment to shine.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then the other thing that I've heard is that then people can't get in the pits to see the sprint car guys because there's the event's still on.
Yeah.
So then guys they're not selling merch and
backing up, getting out of there.
Yeah.
Doesn't end up the race day. We got to go back to the car wash.
Yeah, especially if you're on a multiple night run or something like that. Or,
that's it. Yeah.
And then that's the other thing that people don't ever see is like on the road for like multiple nights, like how much what goes into doing it is just like logistically, like it would warp people their mind to know what goes in like behind the scenes sort of thing.
Yeah,
like,
it gets pretty hectic and late nights, early starts. Yeah. I used to when I ran my own team, I was pretty much doing everything. Obviously racing the car, driving the truck, doing the maintenance. And I remember it like you'd wake up in the morning, you've driven, say, down the Warrnambool from Mount Gambier, and you've already raced 2 nights prior to that, so it's starting to catch up on you. And you just feel hungover. You just lack of sleep, and it's amazing. I guess the adrenaline just takes over when it comes race night, that night, but it's probably not the ideal way to be going about it, really.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that you said, well, I know that obviously you got breaks between and stuff, but 96 nights racing World of Outlaws, you imagine the travel days in between and stuff like that. Like, it's just absolutely brutal.
Yep. It's not as glamorous as what it seems.
It seems glamorous on the race night.
I haven't done the Outlaws, and when I was in America, I was actually travelling on the ASCS tour with Travis, and I was there for 3 months, and you still enjoy it, but the excitement goes away and it sort of becomes a job. Like it's just pretty repetitive what you do.
That's you've really, like once it gets to that point, you've got to make the decision of like, this is now a job. It's no longer like fun or hobby. It's like it's got to you kind of got to go all in and
I used to look forward to the long trips where I could actually sleep. 8-hour drive, cool. I'll sleep now.
Yeah, get it something that's like 1,000 miles away or something like that.
Yeah.
So even for the amount of nights that you're doing like now, like. You got to have so you got missus and kids and stuff. Like you got to have a missus that's so strong, like behind you as well. Like towing the kids around and stuff like that, and you sort of knowing that you can be left alone in the pits for the night and not get the phone calls of come out and sort them out or anything like that. It's like
2 young boys, they're pretty full on, so it doesn't make it easy on Michelle, but she loves the speedway too. The boys are still probably. Well, they're young. I think it's just a bit of a long night. They enjoy it when I'm out there, but in between, it drags on a bit for them, which I sort of can relate to. Like when you're in the pits, the whole night goes pretty quick. But I remember sitting on the hill and the grader comes out, or the streak stocks come out.
Yeah, you see the gate open. Once you sort of like were old enough to work out what was sitting on the dummy grid, you're like, oh no, they're coming out, or oh, I don't like them, or it's like, it's such a hard thing too, especially with like kids' attention spans these days is just so short that us trying to run a 5 or a 7 hour show is just like. It just can't be done anymore. It's like something's got to change in the way that we go about doing it.
It seems to be happening, but I've been pushing for a few years now, and it's obviously happened through the tyre shortage, where just running the one heat format people feel like they're getting ripped off because they're not seeing as much racing, which I understand, but for me, the only good race normally is the feature. Yeah. And normally it's the last 10 laps where it gets exciting, you know. Heat races, generally, the guy on the front row will win it. Yeah. You know, it's pretty predictable. Their track's juiced up. You might get the odd exciting heat race, but generally it's someone on the front row is going to win it. The rest just follow around and just run down the 10 laps and then it's done. So, to me, the heat races are boring. So, and if you're doing the one heat format, speeds the show up. Yeah. Makes it cheaper for the teams. And then, everyone's home at an early time. Like, to me, it's a win-win. Yeah. Like, if I could, even me as a racer, like there's been the odd night at Murray Bridge where we'll finish racing at 9:30. That's perfect. Yeah. Like 10 the latest. Like, you know, we can still get home before midnight. It's good.
Yeah. And then if you're on like a speed week sort of scenario there, that's like you'd be on the road like 3 hours early compared to other nights that you've been there kind of thing.
That's what America's like. They even start late.
Yeah.
And then they're finished. And like you're at the car wash and you're done. And sometimes a lot of those teams, they'll wash the car and then they go out and eat. Yeah. Because it's a decent time still. Like.
Yeah. It's sort of the way they run it too. Like they have one support category just to keep something on track in between or something like that. And it's like, you know, everyone knows that you're there to watch sprint cars or late models, or it's midgets and like street stocks, and, you know, midgets are the shining light that night. And it's like, it's sort of, But then, you know, there's other good things too. Like when USC was in its prime, like sprint cars, late models and midgets, like, man, those crowds were packed at Murray Ridge for that too. Like they're bringing the three best categories along.
Yeah, it just shows if you promote well, you can still pull the crowds. I've heard the saying before. We don't have promoters anymore. We just got track hirers or whatever they called them. They just hire the tracks, but instead of trying to promote the shows. But I guess it's kind of true in a way. But it is a different time as well. Things aren't as easy as they used to be. Yeah. There's a lot of competition now with what people can do on a Saturday night.
There's a lot of competition with what someone can do on their phone compared to going to a track 10 years ago sort of thing too. So it's like, and it is like, it's not, you know, like where you're saying too, like about a short night, like I understand when people are paying like $30-$35 to get in and they're seeing like one heat, that they do feel ripped off, but it's like...
It's still probably a 4-hour show. You know, where else do you go and watch a 4-hour show for $30? Yeah. You know, most shows you go see, it goes for an hour and a half max.
Yeah. The weird thing is that you wouldn't go watch a 4-hour movie though. Nah. Like you see like some trailer for a movie and you see that it's 3 hours long. You're like, I'll wait for that to come to a streaming service. So it's like trying to run a, you know, massive, like 4 hours is probably pretty good. Like even the teams are still there at 2 o'clock in the Arvo though.
That sucks too.
Like, you know, so you're there at 2 o'clock in the Arvo and you're running to midnight. Yeah,
it's a long day.
And then, you know, you still got to hang around for the fans and all that sort of stuff. Like, you're probably there for, like, getting close to 12 hours. Yeah. Like, you know, and then back home again, no matter how long the travel you've got, you probably, you'd be getting close to 20
it's always a long day. And like you said, it doesn't end just for us at the racetrack. We know we normally always come home. Well, on the way home, we'll stop at a car wash. So, you know, there's another hour or so. And then you get back to... If it's not too far away, you'll drive back home, and hopefully the sun hasn't come up.
Pull the car out that morning, or that's the next day's problem.
Yeah, the next day, but you know you've got a clean car to roll out, which you know I can't stand having to roll a dirty car out on the next day. I always like to go to a car wash, get the thing clean, roll it out clean. The next morning, your job's half done by then. You just got to do a bit of maintenance by flushing the motor out, get all the methanol out of it, and then from there just, you know, pretty much, obviously got family now, so you just try and spend a bit of time with them, and then just do the rest of the maintenance during the week.
Are the boys already starting to take interest in like what's going on? Like they'll be racing themselves?
Yeah, who knows? My oldest one, he's dabbled in the kart already, and he's good. He's got potential, but he just at the moment he's not overly interested. So sort of, I guess he's just finding his feet. He's playing soccer at the moment, and he's good at that too. So I guess what he wants to do, I'm happy with that. He's got his motorbikes here. He rides around, and we've got a bit of a kart track out the back too. So he's still on the karts, but we just don't go to the racetrack. Once again, I think getting back to the long days, the karts are pretty bad for that too, and it's at least a 12-hour day for a young kid. That just wants to be on the go all day.
Yeah,
just
wants to be racing.
Sitting around.
Yeah.
And at that age, they're not that. They don't treat it serious. It's just you go there and just cut laps. Where as they get older, it gets a bit more serious, and you might get a bit more interested again. But my youngest one, Toby's 3 now, and yeah, he's definitely loves it. He loves watching on TV, and he plays with his little cars every night. And anytime the sprint cars are on TV, put Dirt Vision on or whatever, he's there sitting with me watching it and making all the noises. So, they've definitely got something in them. They've definitely got the rev head in them, but time will tell, I guess.
So still might be an Egel out there. Have you still got your old number? Is your number still reserved for you?
Nah, it's not reserved, but we'll work that out when time comes.
Yeah. Could be a big transporter with 3 cars.
Yeah, well, probably not that, but it's probably be a good thing if they didn't get involved in motorsport. But it's all I've ever done and all I've ever known, and it's all I was ever really good at. So if they do continue, I'm sure I'll be happy being involved and watching them go down their path and supporting them, and hopefully they're better than me. They'll be even better.
You might be might have a bit of a Dumsney scenario going on there years to come.
Yeah, if you have the next champion, it's even better, isn't it? But
the Browns have put all this together for you.
Yeah, Jeff and Michael and Jeff's partner Jennifer. They've put this deal together. This will be our 4th year, I think. I'm not real good at exact dates, but I think this will maybe a 3rd full season coming up. They've always been involved in Speedway. They were sedan people themselves. Jeff just sort of raced up locally up at Weiler back in the day. I think he dabbled in HQ racing as well. And then his son Michael, well, he was I think junior sedans and name cars, Super sedans. And I just got to know him when they put a few sprint car shows on at Weiler, because they obviously run that speedway up there, and typical country track after the races they have a fire and some fried chicken and it's good. I like it. It's really good, and everyone just has a good time, and you sort of stay out there and just get chatting to them and whatnot, and they'll be talking about their super sedans and this and that, and they're building new ones costing this much. I'm like, far out, man. The money you spend on that, you go sprint car racing. No way. I said, I'm telling you now, it ain't as dear as you think. Obviously any form of motorsport's dear, but it's not as bad as you think. Obviously you sedan guys think, it's just out of control, but and then I just got to know them like that, and basically I was driving for the Downings at the time, and they sort of started sponsoring us there and just hanging out, and then obviously hanging around the sprint car scene a bit more and thinking, this is all right, and the money you're racing for, you don't really race for that money in sedans, and it's a funny story because they had I think it was a state title. They had at Weiler coming up. And I think you needed 12 cars to actually run a state title or something. You needed a minimum amount of cars. And then they had one short at the time. So Jeff was having a bit of a brainstorm one day at work and thought, well, if I buy a car, put someone in it, we'll still be able to run the meeting. So I think he spoke to me and he spoke to a couple of other people, and he found one online, and he ended up buying it. It was just a roller. And I think that's when he realised, he goes, shit, I've just bought this roller. It might have been 12 grand, had some spares. Because I just bought a roller for 12 grand. I've just spent over 100 grand in sleep sedan. And he hired a motor for the night from Maxwell's, and I think Braden Cooley drove it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that meeting ended up being cancelled. I think it got rained out, but that's how it all started. He just bought this car to make numbers up, and then he sort of realised, it's not I've got all this now. I've got this car, it's these spares, It's way cheaper than I thought. And pretty much started from there, and then started talking to me more and more about it, and then seeing me supporting me in the Downing car, and they'd be at the race meetings and whatnot, and then it was just, I think they got the bug, and so they said, stuff it, all right, we're going to build our own team. So I was still driving for the Downings, and then they were trying to fit races in around my schedule with the Downing boys, so I think they leased a 360 a couple of times, and then obviously they thought, we can go to Darwin. If the Downings aren't going there, we'll take a car there. So that was pretty much where it all started, really, where it started getting serious. They bought a motor, second-hand motor, and went from there, ran Darwin the first year with them, and then I did one more year with the Downings, and then started with them full-time. And it's just, it's been 3 years now.
It's just snowballed into what it is.
Yeah, and it's good because, they're in Wyler, I'm in Adelaide. They obviously didn't know anything about sprint cars. They've been sedan people. I got to know them and obviously built a friendship there as well. And they trusted me, and they said, basically, we don't know anything about it, so you build what you want. Choose what cars you want, running gear, and then they bought a second-hand motor, built a trailer, it reminds me a lot of running my own team because I'm doing all the work again, but I'm lucky enough to have them paying the bills.
It's best of both worlds, kind of thing.
Pretty good.
So, you guys, what's the plan from here in terms of the season coming up? Obviously all the blue ribbon stuff. You got the Australian title at Warrnambool and then the Classics. So
to be honest, I haven't really even sat down and really discussed that yet. Obviously last year we sort of focused on Western Australia a fair bit, and we decided to run there most of the season. It was one of those things where I've always wanted to go there and race. I dabbled over there with Muir when I drove for him, and I sort of, had the taste of those big tracks, and with the team with White Earthworks and me building them, felt so comfortable in the car, and we had been running so well on the East Coast and at home. I'm like, I just want to get over there, So, and having the Aussie title there was just a bonus, and they have such a good series there too, and it's just so well run.
Yeah.
It's just,
On some free-to-air TV.
Yeah, everything they do there is just awesome. The Motorplex is unreal. The series they have there is just unreal. And then the money's good. It's just a win-win. Obviously it's a long way to go. It was a bit of an expense to be doing it every second week, flying back and forth and whatnot. But
so you guys obviously drive over, and you left the truck there. Did you have a workshop there and anything like that?
So NT Plant and Hire, he also owns Titan Plant and Hire in WA. So we got to base ourselves out of his workshop, which was just around the corner from the Motorplex. No. So that was pretty handy, and so just basically we'd fly in, race, wash, maintenance that night, drive it back to the workshop, try and do most of the car wash, and then fly it in the morning, and then come back a fortnight later and do it all again.
It's brutal flights over here. I can't stand that flight to Perth.
I'm not that keen on flying full stop, but you got to do it, and it was good. I really enjoyed it. We had some success over there as well. Unfortunately, the Aussie title just didn't go to plan for us. We wrecked the car I was running over there, which was the car I'd been running the last 2 or 3 years, and had so much success in. It was just a good car, and unfortunately we wrecked that coming back when we come back over for the Classic week and had to put a new car together, and the moment I put that car together it just didn't feel right. Could never get a handle on it. It was just hot and cold. You just couldn't get it consistent, and it just hurt our chances really for the Aussie title. But that's racing. We'll move on.
It's such a weird thing that guys can build like 3 or 4 or more cars exactly the same, all the same parts, everything, and one car will just handle completely different to the otother. Like it's such a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Like you probably wouldn't ever see that in any other category of motorsport.
No, it's actually probably the first car I've built where it does feel weird. Just did some really crazy stuff, and then when it starts doing that, you got no trust in it, you got no confidence, and you're just busting your ass, getting nowhere, and then you start overthinking stuff and start doing stuff you normally don't do, and you're chasing your tail, and then it's just from there it's just realistically, looking back at it now, because we sort of repaired the other car, but it was that badly bent. It was never as good as what it was like on the jig. So, but looking back now, probably would have been better off giving that another crack. The car was, bent, and there's probably a good chance it still would go better than what the new one did.
It's such a weird thing.
Yeah, it was just so disappointing because it was so strong over there all over Christmas, and then everyone's talking you up, which I don't exactly like that. I'm sort of used to being under the radar, and I like that. It takes the stress off you and or the pressure and whatever else. But yeah, it's a sort of, we went back over from the Classic, and then that Wednesday night show, just Carl was doing weird stuff, and sure enough, I just kept battling with it, and we ran 5th on that prelim night, and then I think the prelim night, we ran 6th or 5th, and then unfortunately the final night I couldn't even tell you what happened to the car. It just wasn't reacting at all. I was just going backwards. The fast rat knots, it was not funny. Then I get crashed out, which is probably the first time I was ever happy to be crashed out. It took me out of my misery. That's how bad it was.
Did they run as hard and fast over there as it looks on? I've never been there, so I've only ever seen it on TV and stuff. So, do they run as hard and fast over there as it looks? Faster?
Yeah, probably harder than what it looks.
Yeah. They seem like looks like extremely elbows up. Like everyone's racing for sheep stations.
Yeah, they are, and the thing about over there compared to the East Coast, obviously it's the biggest tracks we've got in Australia, and it's a momentum thing, and you miss your mark, you're going to get swallowed up. Like here, you can miss your mark, and you can sort of, to a degree, you can sort of cover your line or bounce back quickly. Like I've had guys over here fully out of control mid corner, and then they just gather it up and gas it, and then you're about to pass them and they just gas it up and keep in front of you. Like over there, it's all about momentum, and you do that and you're going to get past. It's just no question. So there's no hiding over there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the brutal bit about it. And then when it gets right on the fence like that, if you can't commit to that fence, you're just not going to be fast.
So there's a lot of top, they're all big operators over there, eh? There's not really too many privateer sort of guys over there. They're all big teams.
Obviously you got a few, but it's nothing like over here.
You look at the starting A-main on any given night over there, and you're like, wow. You look at the caliber of cars that are out there for a start, and then the talent that's thrown in amongst it as well. They've all got the big rigs, and it's almost a competition really of the rigs over there. It's pretty funny, but it's very different. Obviously, there's money there in WA, and it shows because it goes through all the classes, not just sprint cars. You got the late, even the wingless, or they've got those limited sprints. Yeah.
And then they've got the 360s, and they've all got big fields.
Yeah.
Here we can't even field a full field of 410s, or can't even get a field of 360s. They've got 3 sprint car classes, and they're all got full fields.
Yeah, it seems like that limited sprint's taking off over there. Like,
that was definitely one of probably the biggest out of the lot.
Yeah, like out
Car
of
counts.
right. Like in general, or just in sprint cars?
I reckon it would be 410s. They normally on a general night they're getting about 20.
Yeah, right.
360s less than that, and those limited sprints are. Yeah, it would have been over 20. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
20
right.
cars.
Because they run them on a Wednesday night or something too, don't they, over there?
Every Wednesday night before a race meeting, they have a practice night, which I think is another good idea. Like, it's great, and they all support it. Like, it's...
Yeah.
And then they had their Fast Fridays, which I think...
the drags run over the back as well or something as well.
Yeah, well, the first time we went over, we did the practice night, and, they had the burnout comp on.
Yeah.
And you had to do about 2 laps to blow the smoke out, because, obviously the smoke from the burnouts would be coming over to the track, and you couldn't see. And then obviously with the wings, 2 laps, you'd blow it out again. But yeah, that was pretty surreal, and a bit of a weird feeling travelling at those speeds and you can't see where you're going with the smoke.
Do you know how fast you're actually travelling there? Like, does anyone like?
Nah.
You always hear rumours about how fast someone's going at a track, but I'm sure you can work it out as to how many meters
you can work out the average on the time and obviously the size of the track, but.
Is that the fastest you've been over there? Like,
yeah.
Does it get to a point where it doesn't even feel fast though? Because it's so constant.
It's funny because the Motorplex to me, like you're moving, it's fast, but it doesn't feel scary fast.
Yeah.
But then I go to Bunbury, and it feels fast.
Yeah.
So I think it's because the track's so wide at the Motorplex, you just got so much space. I think, the narrower the track, the more around you. Like Bunbury, when we went to Bunbury over Christmas, that felt pretty quick.
It's not like other small bull rings where you hang your arm out and touch the ambulance on the infield and the right rear loose on the fence as well.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, then you go to a place like Mount Gambier. You probably doing half the speed as what you're probably doing at the Motorplex, but that feels fast too because of the acceleration. You got a short track, so you got bigger gear in the diff and gives you more acceleration, punch out the corner.
That's probably my favourite place to go. Like, they always puts on a good show there. Doesn't matter what's racing. The track's always mint.
Yeah.
And then
it's funny. In my younger days, that was my favourite place. Like every time I'd go there, I'd almost guarantee to be on the podium. And I don't know, the last 6 years, it seems to be my worst place. I'd be getting wrecked. Like, just cannot keep out of trouble there now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I always rated it, and then I've heard a few Americans say that they think it's one of the best tracks in the world, and I was sort of had taken it for granted that. I just thought it was just like Mount Gambier, and then when other people are rating it, and you're when you start thinking about it, you're yeah, shit, this place is actually really cool. You can sit anywhere, see everything. It's not, you don't really miss anything there.
Yeah. No, it's a cool little place, and obviously it looks nice with all the green grass and the gum trees around it and whatnot. But it races well. And the thing about race, putting a good lap in there, and it's a good feeling too. You've got to enter on that fence on entry and really try and arc those corners because it's pretty tight. And obviously there's a bit of camber, a bit of banking on the track as well, especially up the top there on entry, and you can really feel that when you wing it in, and sort of you're virtually kissing that wheel just on entry, with that right rear, just to try and make that corner as big as you can.
Yeah, come closer the other year in the Aussie.
Yeah. That one almost probably. Yeah, it was so close. I think we started at 14th that night. So P14, yeah, and it was just one of those tracks where they let it go, which is great because quite often there they'll re-prep a track, and it's it's unfortunate tracks these days just rubber up too easy. It sucks because we want them to leave it the whole night, but some of these places just they can't do that. But they let it go that night, and it was we've started a race on a slick track, and it was a bit dusty at the top, so everyone's on the bottom, and I'm like, well, I'm getting bottled up here, stuff it, I hate following, getting stuck behind people, so went to the top and wasn't really gaining much, but I wasn't losing, so I'm like, oh, I'm just going to stay up here, I'm not going backwards. I wouldn't have been gaining anyone on the bottom, stuck behind them, so. And I must have cleaned it off, because then I got going. Probably 10 laps in, I got going and started picking them off, and before we know it, we were sort of 5th, and then up to 3rd, and then Chase Carey down all over him, and then unfortunately that's when the rubber came in, and I showed my nose once to him on the rubber. The rubber wasn't strong enough, but it was good enough for him to get down there and obviously take the line, and potentially I pretty much showed him the rubber, and then he got J-Mac on the rubber. So and then of course he showed J-Mac.
I couldn't gain
any more. Even though I'm the one that showed him, I couldn't. I still stay 3rd. But that could have been a win for sure.
Yeah, I was sitting in turn 2. I don't remember the first time you showed him the nose, and I was like, oh, he's got him, and I was like, oh fuck, he's probably showing him where it's at as well.
You have to show him once, don't you? Old man.
Yeah, he's done enough. Like, he'd probably ran 10 times the amount of shows you've ran that year, compared to what you would have done that season. Yeah. On average, I think on average I race about 20 shows a year. I think the most I've ever done is 28 shows a year. In any one season?
Yeah.
It's crazy that you could do that you could probably do that in a month in America, maybe a month and a half. But
Well, even over here, if you obviously chase all the races, I think you can do 45 shows here pretty easy. But it's getting back to the whole thing. It gets pretty grueling. That's every weekend pretty much. Well, obviously sometimes more than once a week. Pretty much where I'm at now, I don't think I'd want to be doing that. I'm pretty happy what we're doing. Yeah. When I was younger, I would have loved to have done that, but it's all happened around the wrong way for me. But I'm obviously still lucky enough to be able to do what I'm doing and have this opportunity with Wild Earthworks Racing.
So obviously, you're going to hit all the big shows this year, and then stick locally.
Yeah, we will.
Chariot, you start
Darwin's booked in. That's already booked in. We love doing that. Sort of becomes a bit of a holiday as well as racing. It's just the perfect scenario, really. You get to race and you got the week in between where you can sort of hang out.
So much to do up there, eh?
Yeah, the weather's so good. Awesome places to go. It's just a good place to take family. It's relaxing. Just everything about it. I know, just Darwin's just the place to be, I reckon.
Yeah, they're pretty laid back up there.
Yep.
All right, man. Thanks for being the first episode.
No worries. Hopefully it all goes good.
Hopefully. And we'll check back in maybe a year or something and see how it's all going.
Hopefully got a few more wins under our belt we can talk about.
Hopefully. All right. Much appreciated.
No worries. Thank you. Cheers, mate.